and welcome to Rangers Radio. Join myself, Oxshare, on the show tonight. It's Bridgeman and Linda. Evening, boys and girls.
Evening, Oxshare. Evening, Bridgeman. Evening, everyone. I hope you're all keeping well.
Come on, Bridgeman. I only want to be with you. Come on.
Sorry. I thought I wasn't on mute. This thing doesn't seem to be working right. Anyway, can I just say a big, huge good evening to you two guys in the panel. Massive good evening to the boys in the lobby and to all the Rangers fans that are listening in all over the world. Good evening. Welcome to Rangers Radio.
I thought you dropped out there, Bridge. I was going to have to say bye-bye, baby.
Bye-bye, baby, baby, goodbye.
How are you, Linda?
Yes, I'm very well, Ox. Yes, weather's very nice today. It's been nice the last couple of days. Looking forward to a big game at the weekend and next week getting back to some sort of normality with some of these restrictions being lifted. So, yeah, lots to look forward to.
Here. Bridgeman, we'll give you 30 seconds to do the view through the bridge about that game last night. You're on mute, Bridge.
I'm saying, do you really want a view from the bridge tonight? It was rubbish.
Can you see us, Bridge? Can you see us?
Can you see us? Oh, my God. That was heartbreaking.
Right, okay.
Big chunk of that game.
We may as well get it on done with. What do you think, Linda?
Oh, yeah. Put us out of our misery, please, Bridgeman.
This might put you right back into it, let me tell you. Anyway.
No shang-a-langs with you, boy, right?
Oh,
okay.
No.
Right, get yourself in mute, because we're going to have a view from the bridge.
View from the bridge. Can take anymore. View from the bridge. Can take anymore.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to A View from the Bridge. What can we say about it? Let's see if we can do something. It's a 1-1 draw for the famous against St Johnstone away at McDermott Park. Rangers made 7 changes from the side that defeated Celtic 2-0. This was not our best performance by our team against a dour and sometimes quite dirty St Johnstone. For me, we should at least have held on to a 1-0 lead and won the game. To lose to a last-minute penalty is really disappointing. I mean, really disappointing. Tavernier, our captain, had a steady game for his return from injury. 60 minutes under his belt. That should do him quite good, hopefully. And he'll be maybe back forever, for that matter. McLaughlin got his first game for a while, and he had a good game. Some nice saves, by the way. Well done to him. Simpson got his first start for us. He appeared to be a bit nervous at times. Think he needs to do better. Did he give away a soft penalty? Good question for everybody. Wright had a cracking game for us with a lovely goal. Well done. Good player. Anyway, the game, this is the boring bit, so I better not say nothing to you. The boring bit, St Johnstone started the game well and were attacking right from the start. Rangers were trying to find their feet and the pitch doesn't look great. In 3 minutes, corner for St Johnstone on the left, taken by Witherspoon, low into the box, and May, who flicks the ball through to Craig, who gets a shot in. It was saved by McLaughlin. Hard line St Johnstone, well saved there, McLaughlin. On 3 minutes, Witherspoon picks up the ball in midfield and tries a through ball to Melamed, who runs into it and scores. A judge to be offside, fortunately. In 4 minutes, Tav made a poor clearance from the right back area, which Craig pushes back towards May, who has a shot which goes high. And in 4 minutes, Hadji tries a back pass, a pass back to Davis, who tries to shepherd the ball over the line, but for somehow or other, it catches the back his foot or somewhere and goes for a corner. In 5 minutes, the corner on the left taken by Witherspoon, high to the far post, and McLaughlin pushes the ball behind for another corner. In 6 minutes, the corner from the right was taken by Witherspoon into the centre of the box, met by Melmed, who gets in a header that is saved by McLaughlin. Once again, no Rangers player getting onto any of these balls coming from corners. It's all St Johnstone. In 7 minutes, a clearance ball push down the line for May, sees him pick the ball up and get into our box on the right. He tries to square the ball low, but Simpson manages to clear the ball for a corner. Another one. Taken by Witherspoon, but it's cleared. On 9 minutes, a lovely ball from Golson finds right on the halfway line, and he finds Hadji, who in turn pushes a lovely ball right into his path for him to run onto, which he does, and gets into the edge of the box and crosses low for Roof in the 6-yard box, but it's cleared by Gordon with a very low header, trailing along the ground, I think, and out for a corner on the right. At last, we're in their half and we're playing. On 10 minutes, the corner's taken by Tav. It's semi-cleared, but to Davis, and on to Golson, who hits a high lob, which the keeper punches clear out to Tav on the edge of the box, and he finds Hadji on the right, who runs in for byline and crosses for Simpson, who headers way over the top. On 15 minutes, Witherspoon fouls Hadji to give Rangers a free kick in a good position. Tav takes and has a right-footed shot, which is blocked by the wall and goes way back for a corner. Way by for a corner, I should say. On 15 minutes, Borna takes the corner on the left, but the ball is easily cleared. 16 minutes and Rangers are playing better and more in possession than for a while, at last. On 18 minutes, Wright is taken right out of the game by Rooney. Shocking tackle. Not for the first time. Free kick to Rangers, but no yellow card. Sorry, I got a yellow card for Rooney. Apologies. 23 minutes, Roof picks up the ball on halfway line and passes it. A lob, beautiful pass to Wright. He gets in the box, but he loses control. Just no more under the challenge from the keeper. Hard lines there, Wright. Super pass by Roof. In 25 minutes, on until half-time, the game was dire from both sides, with free kicks abounding from both sides. Half-time, 0-0. Second half starts with no changes for Rangers. 50 minutes, the game continues just as it was before half-time. Starting to watching something going by from history. Biggest difference this half is Itten, best player on the park so far this half. In 55 minutes, Kamara picks up the ball in his own half and passes a lovely ball to Davis. Gordon comes in to challenge Davis, but doesn't get the ball right, and Davis goes on with it. And the ball is actually, you see, when he gets the ball, and Itten makes a lovely run, a decoy run, which into the box, and Davis plays the pass out to right on the edge of the box and the inside left channel. He controls the ball and places a lovely pass to right, from right to the right of the goalkeeper, right edge of the box to the net. So just fantastic. 1-0 for Rangers. Great goal by Wright and well played Davis. On 56 minutes, St Johnstone attacking, and May picks up the ball and goes into the box where he goes down under a challenge from Simpson. He goes over the standing leg and looked like a dive to me. That's what I thought. He should have been booked for diving. On 57 minutes, a cross from the left by St Johnstone comes to right, and the ball comes off the ground, off his foot, and touches his left arm. Claims for a penalty. Ref gives it, but he discusses it with his assistant, and no penalty decision. Goal kick to Rangers. And that was a kind of tough one, because if that had been against us, we would be probably screaming. So, but it did come off his foot and hit his hand, so his arm. On 59 minutes, Rooney seems to lose the head and is grabbing Kamara's shirt down at the corner flag and won't let go. Both players will be booked. I can't believe that was a poor decision. I can't believe he booked Kamara. He wasn't even involved in anything. Anyway, on 60 minutes, Tav is subbed off in place of Patterson. Well played, Tav. 63 minutes, the game seems to dwindle in quality, but in 67 minutes, the ball is passed up to Roof on the halfway line by Davis. He flicks the ball past McCart and is taken out. Worst foul of the night. Definite free kick and a yellow card to McCart. Well deserved, in my opinion. That could have been a red card, dead easy. Dead easy. 94 minutes, a long high ball into the heart of our defence. Sees Bassey mishead the ball back into our box, where Kane goes for the high ball, and he heads the ball backwards, but falls to the ground, claiming he had been failed by Simpson. That was never a penalty. Just never. I claim robbery. If Craig he takes a penalty and scores, one each, so the famous are getting lost a goal there for nothing. That's about 4 or 5 penalties St Johnstone have claimed during the game. Just rubbish, referee, just rubbish. Full time, 1 each. This result now puts us on 93 points from 35 games played. We have three post-split games left to play. We have 20 points clear at the top of the league with a goal difference of 69 with 24 clean sheets. Player by player out of 10. Laughlin 8, Tavernier 7, Goldson 8, Simpson 7, Barisic 8, Hadji 7, Davis 8, Kamara 8, Wright 9, Roof 7, and Itten 8. Man of the match is Wright, very closely followed by Itten for me. Statistics. Possession. St Johnstone 37, Rangers 63. Shots 11 for St Johnstone, 6 for Rangers. Shots on target 3 for St Johnstone, 2 for Rangers. Corners 4 for St Johnstone, 6 for Rangers. Fouls 8 for St Johnstone, and 16 for Rangers. And that number at the end there, 16 fouls by Rangers. I can't believe that. I just can't believe it. Anyway, that is the end of a view from the bridge.
View from the bridge. Can take anymore. View from the bridge. Can take anymore.
I tell you what, Bridge, you're the most generous marker in the world. London.
Yeah. So you can't say nothing more than that. It's just, you know, I did think Itten played really well. I thought he came onto the game later on in the second half, the first half, and then all the way through the second half. I thought he was magic for us. He did everything. He fought for everything. I thought it was really good. But that boy Wright has got a lot of class about him. As far as the rest of them, you could have gave them nothing if you wanted. But I wouldn't do that to Rangers.
Yeah, Bridge, I would agree with you about Wright being man of the match. He was kind of the only bright spark, wasn't he? And I suppose other positives, as you say, we've got Tav got 60 minutes under his belt because we're obviously going to need him in the coming games now. But yeah, just I think all the changes probably disrupted our flow quite a bit, and as you say, they started the game very well, could have had a couple of goals, and it was just a shame we didn't see out and get the win, Ox. But I'm with Bridgeman, I just didn't think that was a penalty at all, and it looked as if the ref was trying to find an opportunity to give them a penalty because of the debacle earlier on, but all in all, probably a draw was a fair result, I think.
Aye, listen. It wasn't a great watch. It wasn't a great game. The changes of personnel, I don't think many of the players get pass marks. I don't think Tav was anywhere near fit. But I think it was a good game for McLaughlin, a good game for Simpson. Good to get Hadji and Roof and Wright and that on the park to give them minutes because they've not maybe played as much as they all would have liked. That was a positive. We scored a good goal, big positive. Everybody was pleased for Scott Wright, and it was great to see when he scored the goal, the celebration, Linda, with his teammates.
Okay, that was great to see, and they were all really pleased for him, and he settled in really well, and I think the decision to bring him in early has been a really great one by the club because he's hit the ground running, albeit we've not seen a lot of him, but what we have seen of him, we're all really excited to see how he's going to progress at Rangers, and once he gets a full pre-season with us Ox over the summer, and then he'll be ready for next season. But yeah, they were all delighted for him, and it was a really great finish. And he had a few other moments in the game, and as Bridge says, he got taken out a couple of times, but the way that Ryan Kent does as well, he just got up and got on with the game. So he can take a challenge, and he's not frightened to put himself about the pitch. So yeah, really, really pleased with Scott Wright.
Yeah, that was one of the big highlights in the game. It wasn't a great watch. We were playing with a handbrake on. We couldn't get organised at first. I actually felt a bit sorry for Tav. I don't think normally would have been at that level of fitness playing in the first team, if I'm being honest. But the circumstances where you can't play bounce games, Linda,
Yeah.
to try to get his fitness.
Yeah, I was talking to my brother about that today, and we were, just thinking that, in years gone by, even when you had things like the old reserve league ox, and there was games on that you could build up your fitness, or even just guys that are on the periphery to get a game every week. But obviously, as you say, we can't have the bounce games just now. But it must be really difficult to just all of a sudden be asked to start a game when you've hardly been involved in the team, whether it's through the fact that you're not getting a start, or you're not getting on, or you're coming back from injury. Yeah, but Tav he's just obviously no game fit at all. But hopefully he'll start to pick up in the next few games, because we are going to need him, aren't we now?
Yeah. Yeah, obviously with that decision today, which surprised me, but nothing should surprise you about Scottish football. But I wish Tav all the best. Hopefully he gets a bit of fitness. Bridgeman, you've been my centre half. The boy Simpson showed a ton of pace, particularly in the first half a couple of times. Passed the ball decently, but looks as if he's somebody who's got to get used to the hustle and bustle of Scottish football, mate.
Yeah, that's the only thing I was missing. It's the only thing I was missing from his game, the ability to be in among the crowd who are trying to kill you, that kind of... I really do think he's not a bad wee player. But the three things he has to do, he has to header the ball. And he headers it, he must header it in the right direction and things like that. There's some silly things happen when you're heading the ball. But no, I have no complaints too much. Not too many complaints about him. I do think I was going to say a victim of a poor refereeing when that penalty went in, and it was down to him. I mean, there's nobody else anywhere near that guy, and he was supposed to be trying to challenge him, and obviously nowhere near as far as heading it, and for some reason or other that guy just fell over. And that's what it looked like to me. So forgive me if anybody knows any better. Please phone in and tell me. Because as far as I was concerned, that was blatant. That was a blatant dive from the same guy who does it 7 and 8 times every game. Every time a player, not just Rangers, every time a player of the opposition goes anywhere near him, he drops to the ground. I think it's a dreadful player, that boy, for doing that. Dreadful player. They got it, and the manager walked away smiling. I think the manager says, I don't know what he says, but I would imagine he's thinking, well, that was all right, but you deserved that or something like that. I don't know what he said. So, in fact, I hope we've got it tonight, but interested here. I'm disgusted with it. That boy Rooney stayed on the park for 90 minutes, and he did nothing but boot people, shove people, bang into people.
No
He grabbed the body.
No football in him. Nothing.
Absolutely, he grabbed Kamara's arm, his shirt, his arm, and he's walking away, holding it, trying to hide what he's doing. And the referee's behind it, can't see nothing. And Kamara's trying to pull him back. So all of a sudden, what happens is he gets booked for what he's doing. No, he could either he get booked for that, or it was Kamara get booked for it. Certainly,
Kamara get booked. He'd already been booked, I think.
He would have been off.
Mm-hmm.
So he didn't get booked.
No,
and he caused all the trouble. Oh, no. Yes,
I thought, I've got to say, London, I think it'd be fair to say that I'm more lenient with referees in Bridge. Is that fair?
Just a bit.
Well, I'll tell you now, that refereeing performance last night, not just for our team, for both teams, was atrocious.
Yeah, it was quite embarrassing actually, Ox, wasn't it? If fans or viewers from other countries had been watching that game, and we know that the majority will be Rangers fans by whatever means, but it was quite embarrassing. I thought that the decision he gave at the end was a total embarrassment. I mean, it just was never a penalty kick. And as I said earlier, I think he knew that he had maybe made a mistake with the earlier decision. But generally, I thought his refereeing for the whole game, as you say, was poor for both teams.
Here. Mr. Bridge, would you agree with that?
100%. I think the referee was... Look, at the end of the day, it was a one-each draw, and there's faults on other sides. But if you look at the three Rangers, I think there was 3 Rangers players got booked. You had Wright getting booked. You had Kamara getting booked. I can't remember who else did it get booked. There was definitely 3 Rangers players got booked, and it might even have been Stephen Davis for all we know. But really, I'm like that. right, wee toty guy, Kamara, gentleman. You know, what are they doing? Who are they killing? No, where's the big fella? That big fella, Rooney. Is he not have the park yet? He's killed everybody. Sorry, I'm starting to shout. Do apologise. No, it really irritates me. I mean, really irks me. And they're getting away. They get away with it. They actually get away with it. So hopefully somebody sees that incident where he grabs Kamara's arm, the jersey, his arm, and holds onto it as he's walking away. And what it means is that the ref, all the ref's seeing is Kamara getting hold of his back and trying to stop him. It's as if he's trying to attack the boy Rooney, and it's nothing to do with that. I hope they see it. Anyway.
I've got to say, Linda, I said it last night, for all the referee was just, I think he lost the plot with the game, if I'm being honest. But wasn't it the worst refereeing decision I seen last night? I don't know if you've seen the one from the northeast of the country.
Yes, you've just taken the words out of my
Did
mouth.
see that in the news?
Yes, I've seen that quite a few times on social media. Was a yellow card produced in that incident?
Yes, a yellow card. So he obviously
card.
seen it.
Yes.
So if he thinks that's a yellow card, what do you need to do to get sent off?
Unbelievable decision. There was quite a few comments saying that if it had been a certain Rangers player, a forward, that had done that, there would have been outcries all over Scottish football for bans and retrospective action. But that was an absolutely shocking decision. It really
I actually
was.
do think they'll get retrospective action on that. I can't see them not doing it. Seriously.
Yeah.
I just don't see... The lad was really bad. It was really bad. You know? Just shocking, actually. Just shocking.
Yeah, well, anyway, back to your team. I mean, it was after the Losmere show, London, and all the changes. There was no rhythm. We couldn't pass the ball well. I thought the front four, that's including Hadji, I only gave Wright pass marks. I thought Wright was a bright spot without being outstanding. He done okay. I thought Roof was poor. I thought Itten was poor. I thought Hadji was poor. Davis and Kamara were strolling again, playing deep. They were playing deep to the right because they were coming. It looked as if they were making sure Tav was all right. So it was a nothing game. Played at no pace, with no tempo, and we should have seen it out. And I was disappointed with Kamara Roof at the end. I know he's done it before, and he'd done it in Belgium, and we cheered like everybody else and couldn't believe it. But he should have just rolled the ball to Patterson, let him run with the ball and finish the game. Yeah,
That was shocking. That was shocking doing that.
That's playing. That's what you call playing for yourself, Bridge. That's what that was.
Oh, that's terrible. I hope the manager gives him a right rollicking for it, because that's what direct cause and effect. You do that, then that's what the other side's going to happen. Unbelievable. Just unbelievable.
I mean, you don't want to be overcritical. Sorry, Bridge. You don't want to be overcritical, don't you know, guys? But you've just got to see what you see. And one of the poorest things for me last night was our delivery into the box. I thought that Barisic, I don't remember one decent cross that he put in at all, and he had quite a lot of opportunities to put the ball in. And when you've got Itten and Roof playing, they're looking for quality to come into the box, and I just didn't think that we actually delivered that for them. But overall, their general play was probably not the best, the two guys up front. As Bridge said, I think Itten played slightly better in the second half, but for me, Kamara Roof's still struggling even to get up to match fitness, and I don't know if we all think he should be there by now, but I just don't think he's been the same since he came back from the injury.
I think he's still carrying the injury. And it might be he might be one of these guys. It takes him a while to get over things, and that causes psychological problems as well. If you follow what I mean, am I ever going to be fit? That kind of thing, you know.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'd agree, Bridge.
I
was like that, mate. When Bambi died, it took me ages to get over it.
I know. I can just imagine it too.
being the sensitive soul that I'm on, Linda, you know.
Oh, definitely, Ox.
I just feel I feel for Roof, because I think Roof could be an absolute cracking player for us. But not the way he's playing.
I'm going to say it, Bridge. I'm going to say it, mate. Roof and Itten have moved into the jury's out for me. I
was delighted to see it in the second half. I thought he played very, very well, holding the ball up and bustling his way through. Otherwise, the rest of the players, I don't think they did anything. Insofar as I think they were maybe a bit worried rather than going for a tackle, just stay away from it, which causes its own problems because you end up just leaving them with a possession. Obviously, there are big games coming up with the season, so you can't say too much about it. But let's put it this way: we're glad to get away from there. The pitch was a wreck, and our team are a shower of thugs, as far as I'm concerned. A shower of thugs.
Well, we move on, London, and we're still undefeated. So,
yeah, and I think that's one of the other positives to come out the game. We could have lost it because they did have a couple of really good chances, particularly early doors. And the manager's interview after the game, he was totally, upfront about the decisions that he made, and everything was about Sunday's game, Ox. And that's from the team selection and also the subs and how, he decided to set the team up. So, St Johnstone, you've got to give them a bit of credit. They did put themselves about a bit, but I agree with Bridge. There's some really terrible challenges going in, and that stat that Bridge said that we had 16 fouls, I'm amazed at that.
yeah, but if you think back, I think there was about 3 or 4 of them committed by maybe Hadji's just bumping into somebody. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But listen, I wasn't surprised about our number. I was actually surprised at their number.
Yeah. I thought it was probably equal, but
yeah, but it was a poor game, and we need to get it out. We need to be able to delete it and get a good performance on Sunday and win the game, Bridge.
Yeah, but we go back to just what you were saying there. The reason I complain about the referees, it's the things they do against Rangers. They're booking. What do you call them? They book Kamara for something they never even done. The referee never even saw the incident or what was happening to Kamara to make a comment, and they've got a fourth official and a what do you call him? An assistant on the same side, and they never saw it. So if not, now they've seen it. It's on the telly. Now you've seen it. Go and report it and get that guy a retrospective red card. That was shocking. But we end up with Kamara, one of the gentlest wee guys in the park. And I think it was Hadji was the other one that got booked, by the way, probably for bumping into somebody. But the fouls are just innocuous, and when he turned in and they booked right, I could not believe it. I nearly fainted. No, not fainted. That's not right. I'm not going to do that. But you know what I mean? I just couldn't believe it.
But I've got to say, Bridge, for all, I thought the referee was poor. He maybe let us get away with one, maybe 2.
Are you talking about the penalties?
Aye.
Fouls?
Penalties, mate. They could have been given, couldn't they?
That's what I'm meaning. See the one we're right. I didn't realise. Of course, they changed the law a number of months ago, and they said it can't be a penalty if it comes off any part of your body and then hits your hand. It just can't be a penalty. So, and that's exactly what happened with Wright. It bounced up off his feet and hit his arm. So what can you say? I thought the one with Simpson, though, when it hit his arm, I thought maybe that was a 50-50. If the referee had given... Sorry?
Maybe, but it still could have been given, couldn't it?
Absolutely. If the referee had given it, I really couldn't complain. I couldn't complain. I'm not saying it was a blatant penalty, but, I've been involved with these things when I never touched the ball at all, and the referee gave it against me.
I bet you never. all the guys knows it was lying in a heap. How did that happen? Listen, I just want to congratulate you, and I have to take a lot of these things back I've said about you, Bridge, the other year. The fact that you two paid $17.50 along with myself to watch that, I congratulate you both. I don't feel as if it was value for money, though.
No, that certainly wasn't. And I thought it was quite poor, actually. What can I say?
Poor fair. Right, okay. Can we part that, Linda?
Yes, I think we better and focus on something much more positive.
We're going to be joined by Alistair there shortly. We're going to have a chat with Alistair, who's done some fantastic Rangers books back. Davy Wilson for the 60s. A guy called Alistair McCoy, Slender. He's done a few books on him. And obviously he's done a book about the 80s, Rangers in the 80s. He's done the latest one with the Quiet Man Roars, the Davy Robertson book. So it'll be good to talk to Alistair. But I just want to talk to you two because I've got Bridge and I've got something intelligent on with Bridge. So, Bridgeman and then Linda, world football's went a bit mad this week. I'd just like to hear both your takes on it. You know, Super League's in this morning. We wake up to a British league where potentially they want us and that other team in it. But I did hear their fans saying they want nothing to do with Britain. There's a simple answer if you ask me, but I heard them on there. They were saying live on air today. They want nothing to do with Britain. That was his quote. Yeah.
Who said this?
It doesn't matter. That was his quote on a podcast today live. Yeah,
wow.
But
that's really weird.
It is weird. That's weird. But obviously, there's been a lot of furore since Sunday, and the world's went a wee bit mad in the football world. I didn't realise that between the 12 teams, they owe £7.5 billion.
Yeah,
7.5. Now, Linda, that's a lot of money to me and you, Bridgeman. I know it's not to you, but it's just when are they going to look at players' wages, Linda? You know, the world's went mad.
Yeah, absolutely, Ox. And that figure you've read out there, it is shocking, but not really, isn't it? Because it's all obviously driven by money, and the debt in the game is just spiralled out of control. A lot of it, as you've rightly said, they are driven by players' wages, which need to be looked at. Somebody has to get that under control. But the European Super League thing was unbelievable that they didn't envisage the reaction that they were going to get from the rest of football. And the fans obviously drove some of the action as well in terms of protests, etc. But it's astonishing that they thought that the rest of football would just step aside and say, yeah, on you go with your Super League. That to me was absolutely astonishing.
Yeah, you know, when I think about it, and when I first heard that they were going to do it, and I thought, no, they can't be right. They must be mental. What are they doing? And you're thinking, what? There's got to be something better other than money. You know, I was thinking, but see when you see it, and it's as plain as the nose in your face. None of the people who own these clubs actually support football to any extent. They've never been fans. They're not dyed in the wool like a lot of we are. You know, it's just no there. I can understand if you were a fan and you came into a few quid, or you weren't, you managed to earn a few quid during your day, and you buy a club and that's your hobby, and away you go and love it. These people are making huge multi-billion dollar prices at it, you know. I mean, Manchester United, when the Glaziers bought Manchester United, and forgive me if I get this figure wrong, but it was something like £700 million they paid for them. The very first thing they did was they took that 700 million and put it straight onto their debt for Manchester United to pay. So they never.
I'd have thought that I could have bought your house with your money.
But that's what they've done, isn't it? So what are you going to do with Manchester United? They still owe that money. They've never paid a penny back. They've never paid anything back. They're still loaded, as you say. They're talking between them is 7 billion, say 7.5 billion euros or pounds. Just incredible. These numbers are dazzling, man. Just dazzling. Imagine somebody saying, I want to go and buy Arsenal.
They're not a fan of the Americans, Bridge. They can't get their head around. They can't get their head around promotion and relegation, can they?
No, they can't.
Yeah, whereas it's just natural to us. You know, there's winners and losers. You know, they have all these playoff systems when you can finish. They're not the only sport.
Yeah.
There's other sports there as well. You can finish 8th, but you can still win the competition, Linda, which to us as football fans seems bizarre, doesn't it?
Yeah, you're right, Ox. It is very Americanised, isn't it? It's all about the types of franchises they have over there, whereas you see promotion and relegation is not a big issue. It's not a big thing. It's actually something that we got a lot of excitement from in terms of, you know, the leagues across Europe. You know, if you think about if you didn't have that, like a lot of these games would be totally meaningless, you know, when teams are fighting relegation, teams are fighting to get into the Champions League, that sort of thing. So yeah, I think you're right. They just didn't appreciate it. And in terms of the British League, I think that's obviously somebody's written an article about that today, but I don't see how that could happen either, Ox. You could say that it's just something similar, but in a smaller scale, wouldn't it be?
Can I ask a question of you two? What
Yes.
do you think? What do you think the Football Association are thinking about doing to the teams, the clubs that wanted to break away and leave the
The
English
English,
Premier League?
English Football Association.
The English, yeah.
Nothing.
I can't believe they're not going to find them. I just
But
can't believe.
they didn't want to break away from their
No,
league.
they wanted to, whatever it was they wanted to do without involving. Because you can only be involved with one football association, can you? You can't be working with two. You can't be involved with two, surely, as a club. And that's what I mean. And they would have been in a league in Europe somewhere under the auspices of whatever. I just can't believe it. I think the FA will take them to court or fine them heavily, something like that. Anyway, sorry, I don't
Yeah,
know.
I mean, obviously, Souness had a great point, London. I don't know if you've seen that on Sky. What a hypocrisy for Sky, I might add. I bet you if they did television rights, it would have batted an eyelid.
Exactly, yeah.
Exactly.
You know,
Yeah.
But Souness said about the other 14 Premier League clubs, how can they sit around the table with him? How can they make deals? How can they draw up agreements? How can they trust them?
Yeah, that's right, Ox. It is going to come down to trust. It was a good point by Souness. And in terms of what Briggs said about action getting taken against these teams, there was calls for them to have points deductions, fines, all sorts of different action. But I don't think that will happen. I think you're right, Ox. I think it will just be put aside now, and obviously they've announced changes to the Champions League going forward in the other European competitions. I think it's from 2024. But I don't know. It's a power thing, and I think it's probably put aside for now. But I don't know whether we've heard the last of it or not.
Can I ask you, where were they going to go this big finance from? Obviously, it's
JP Morgan were financing it.
Yeah.
okay. They're only backing it. Well, they were going to generate an awful lot of money. Would it be from television, or would it? Do you think
The Far East,
audit,
the plan was that most of the revenue would come for the Far East, mate.
Far East? Well, I think they were going to go for EBTs or something like that. Well, how are we going to get this? Well, we'll put EBTs out. We'll just pay them in EBTs. It's just nonsense, I know. But my goodness gracious, we get thrown down 4 divisions for having EBTs.
What I can't get my head around is, Linda, right? There's obviously they've reached a ceiling, yeah.
Yeah.
They've reached a ceiling when the revenue streams are at a maximum for what they can get out of Europe, and they're looking to go further afield. But if they're talking about paying Pogba £500,000 a week, the problem is the more money they got, the players would want a bigger slice of the pie. So as clubs, they're not going to be potentially any better off.
No, that's a great point. And I just think as well, in terms of the timing of it, when we're just trying to come out of a pandemic, there's people that have lost their jobs, there are people that have had to take pay cuts, we're trying to get the economy back and, up and running again. And as you say, £500,000 a week to play football, it has kind of become obscene, Ox, hasn't it? And these clubs have reached their ceiling because there's only so much money that, for example, fans can put into football. And even when you're talking about TV deals, that's a huge deal that's on the table just now through Sky. And the Premier League down south is obviously worth millions. So I don't know, there has to be a bit of a rethink in terms of the finances. But I don't know who's going to drive that because, as you said, it's these big clubs that are owned by billionaires and they're quite far removed, I think, from sort of, ground level football and traditions, etc.
Bridgman, I think it's fantastic that players earn decent livings, but we've got to get it sorted for the good of the game. Maybe it's the time if we look at the whole thing. Yeah,
100%. But you know what you said. Well, what you said as soon as it said. I don't know how. There's two sets of sandpapers are going to rub up against each other because you're going to have snide comments everywhere. You don't even want to be here. What are you doing in these meetings and blah 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 blah? You're going to get that because these. I know they always
they wanted to stay in the Premier League.
Yes, I know, but they wanted to do something that was against. You're in a club and you decide you want to be somewhere else, really, because that's where you're going to get all your money from. Most of your money. We'll still play with you, but you're not going to get in off of us. We're going to get money off of somebody else. And all the chances of any of your clubs other than us six, you'll never get on. You'll never get in there. That's the door's closed completely. And that's the way it sounded to me. So once they're in...
One of them are sitting 10th in the league, I believe.
I mean, wait a minute. If somebody said Arsenal, is Arsenal? Aye, Arsenal are one of them. Sorry, after this season, sorry. Can't believe it.
Anyway, it'll unravel, and I'm sure other people have a lot to say about it going forward. I think it's a story. I don't think it's a way, Linda.
No, I don't think so. 'Cause, as I say, these guys are well, they're so-called so powerful that you can't imagine that they're just going to totally step aside. They did say, I think a couple of the teams abroad, I don't know if it was the Real Madrid guy, said that it's obviously not happening now, but he does think that there's major changes needed. So I don't think it'll. We'll probably hear more about it, but who knows
the changes would just be to try and smash that glass ceiling for more revenue.
Yeah, but as you say, where do you go? Because they've exhausted everything in Europe. As you say, it has to be out sort of a Far East, but I don't know. It's a difficult one because, again, as the fans and everyone else has just said, no, it's not happening, we're not accepting it. I mean, the setup of it would just have made a mockery. For example, when you look at the Premier League, potentially you've got the winners of it. They're not... they're winning the league, but they're then saying, well, we're away to play in the European League. We're not going to be taking part in the Champions League. And potentially you would have let, the 6th, 7th or 8th team perhaps been one of the ones in the Champions League. So, no, it just wouldn't work.
I agree. I don't know who thought it up. But I'll tell you what, one of the other strange things for me, Bridgeman, they must have been working on it for a long time. They obviously had to done their homework.
As far as the money's concerned and all that, these people are sitting in a different cloud, way above everything. Because you had managers want to resign. In fact, did you know that one that did resign or caused himself to get sacked? Mourinho. And hold a load of players out against it. The players are coming out and speaking against it, and that's not right. And this is players who would be involved in that. It's just crazy. I mean, to think about it now, why did they do it? And within 4 days? Within 4 days of the announcement, it's crap. It's gone, finished. Just not right. Just not right. What was it Dave King said? Pack of cards.
It's interesting.
See, even from a marketing point of view, they made an announcement on Monday morning. There was not even any big sort of, launch or, promotion of it, or they just said this is what's happening, and we've all just to set aside, step aside and accept it. It wasn't even branded. It was a very, very strange thing, that part of it for me, I think.
Again, they hadn't done their homework. Did you think the other teams were going to just sit back and say, "Oh, thank you very much. That's a great idea"?
Absolutely, it was quite astonishing when you think about it, how powerful these guys are, or they obviously are because they've got money behind them. But it just, as you say, they didn't seem to put a lot of thought into how they were going to present it. It was almost as if this is a fait accompli, and because we've got money, it's happening. But they did underestimate the reaction, didn't they? Majorly. If
you were a chairman of one of the other ones, the ones below 10, and you're sitting in these meetings. Some of these guys are wealthy as well, you know. Their team isn't playing as well. You just imagine if you're going to a meeting and somebody for Manchester United says, I've got an idea I want to put on the table. No. Not interested in your ideas, pal. Simple as that. I'm voting against it. So I don't know what the voting pattern is, but you can probably find that there's going to be something like 14 votes against you. You know, if you want to come to a table and put something down on the table as a proposal, no, I'm not doing it. Finished. How?
I'll tell you another thing, Lyndon. I mean, I know that some of the games like Real Madrid and Liverpool, but Real Madrid just played Liverpool a couple of weeks ago. Nobody even knew their right to watch it.
No, and if that was to happen every season, I mean, I think that's what some of the managers said, like Guardiola and Klopp. These big games, you know, they come round every so often. If you had those games every year, it was the same teams. I think they were going to allow 5 different teams in every year. They would just become repetitive, Ox. And as you said as well, that you know, with no relegation, no promotion, I mean, that takes the excitement out of it. Yes, there would have been a big, you know, glorified trophy probably for the winners, but it would just become repetitive. And I don't know, rather than being exciting, I think it would have eventually become quite boring to watch the same teams all the time.
Aye, well, we'll see what happens. Come back to the British League. I don't know if that could happen, but could you see the UK or us in England and Wales, of course, with Cardiff? Could you see scrapping a League Cup and maybe having a British Cup? Is that a possibility?
That's a good shout. And you know, the article today said that you know, UEFA and the governing bodies would actually possibly sanction the you know, leagues merging, because they've said
the Dutch and the Belgium have just done it.
Yeah, so that's an example, but I don't know how you would get round that, you know, in terms of all those sort of leagues in Britain. But I know that some of the teams down south, for example, don't want the Old Firm, you know, in their league, because when you think about it, a lot of these English teams are trying to get into the Premiership because of the big financial carrot that it holds. But that's a good shout about a British Cup, because was there a version of that in the past that the teams competed in?
They had one for people who qualified for Europe, the Texaco Cup, wasn't it, Bridge?
It was indeed, yeah.
Texaco Cup and the Anglo-Scottish Cup when we get knocked out with Chesterfield.
Aye. I don't think there will ever be another cup. I think they would create a new cup, just create a new cup if they wanted to do anything. But if for instance, if they're going to give Rangers and Celtic a chance to get into the Premiership, they're not going to create a brand new league for that, or are they? Or are they? A completely different league than the Premiership. I think all the contracts is going to be signed there. I think they would just extend the Premiership to maybe 20 or 24 leagues.
They're talking about cutting it to 18, Bridge.
Well, the favourite thing is to get it to 18. But if they're going to try and get other teams in from Wales, teams in from Northern Ireland and teams in from Scotland, a selection process, then they'd have to increase the league to start with, and then start to drop it down again. And they would have to drop down to God knows where. They drop it back. They go away. If you didn't get through the pyramid system in England, mate, their teams, you would have maybe 80 teams in uproar, mate. You'd be fighting against 80 teams, and that's of course. That's why it's interesting. It'll be interesting to see which way they're going to play their cards on this, if indeed they're going to play those cards. Because what you said is absolutely right. There've been talk about Rangers and Celtic going down to play in the English leagues for a long, long time, and sometimes, for instance, a lot of Rangers supporters said, let's bite the bullet and just go and do it. And they come up with some possible solutions, for instance, when Carlisle United were up for sale. You know what I mean? Why don't Rangers just go and buy them? This is the talk. Just go and buy them and rename them to Rangers. And that's it, you know. That's what they were saying. I don't know how it would have worked. I don't know if it would be an uproar, but there were certain ways forward for people if they wanted to do these things. Bury went out of business, didn't he? Just about they could have been bought with Celtic. Just for saying that they could have been bought with Celtic. Then it won't really matter where they play, will it? They're in there. They're still a registered club in England. So there was people putting up some of these ideas. Could it happen like that? Probably not. But it's a try. It's a try. I just love to get a chance.
It'll be interesting. I mean, a lot of things only broke, Linda, are they? If you look at the English League, we look at it and we think, well, it's marketed well, all this revenue. Why did they want more? Only because they paid players even more money, and there's only so many star players.
Yeah, and it does go back to that, doesn't it? You know, it's all this, the wage structure. And I think, you know, obviously the UEFA brought in the sort of financial fair play regulations as well to try and regulate some of the clubs. But they find money from somewhere, Ox, don't they, to pay these players. But then obviously a lot of them are ending up in debt, because the figure you read out earlier there was, you know, was unbelievable. But there is an attraction to playing in the Premier League, for example, for Rangers and Celtic, the sort of games that you would play in every week. And also you would say, well, would we be able to compete? Well, you would, because you would possibly get more money to buy, you know, potentially better players. But then you just get into that vicious circle, as you say, of having to pay them big wages. So I don't know. I don't see that ever happening. Rangers and Celtic moving away from Scottish football. I just don't really see a real avenue for that to happen, I'm afraid.
Yeah, I think that's some of the things that people in the past, when they've spoken about these things, they've ended up saying that. Would we really want to move from Scotland? Would we want to do this? I want to do that. So better minds than me have come up with some suggestions, and better minds than me came up with that European Super League. You know what I mean? Yeah. These are multi-billionaires, these people, and they've come up with that, and it's been smashed to pieces within 3 days or something like that. Just incredible stuff. Incredible. They've lost. People will not listen to them again. Just won't listen to them. Just for badness, you know.
No, because there's a way of doing things, isn't there?
Yes.
Yeah, things can fall apart, but if you do it up front and you recognise there's failures and you back away from it, but they never, what they done was underhand, you know.
Indeed.
But, anyway, obviously we're going to be joined by Alistair Aird shortly. It's going to be good to hear from Alistair. Real bubbly character and a big lover of our club. So, and he's wrote some marvellous literature about one of Linda's heroes, first and foremost, Mr. Super Ali, Linda.
Yes, absolutely. Is it three books in Super Ali? So that must have been a great experience to, you know, obviously Ali's we've definitely categorised him as a legend in our shows recently, haven't we? So
are you not blushing?
Well, not yet. I'll wait till I hear a bit more, Bridge.
Love it.
Where would it be? Would it be the cut out of Super Ali? Well, no, the day you did a big cut out of Super Ali at the moment, but Ali's prime or Stevie G, who are you going for, Linda?
I've got to say to you, I'm kind of wavering towards Stevie G now. Sorry, Ali.
I never thought I'd hear the likes, Bridge.
Shocker.
Huh?
Shocker.
Just kicks the man into touch after all these years.
No even a second thought. Now in a third. Second thought, no. Bye. Is that you, Stevie?
This unbeaten run, when you were watching that game last night, did it mean anything to you, or were you getting annoyed about it, or did you think when we got the goal, well, we'll not get beat now? Linda?
I've got to say to you, Alex, I wasn't really thinking about it during the game. I think I was just so focused on how bad it was, the game. And I was just thinking when we got the goal, right, that's us. We'll probably just see this out now. I wanted us to get a second. So it didn't really come into my thoughts, but I was glad that we didn't get beaten when I was reading about it on social media today, and folk were talking about that was one of the positives, that we still had the run intact.
How about you, Bridge?
I must say, I didn't think about it after the first 15 minutes. I thought, this is Border Police. I thought we were dire. And I thought, the only thing I started thinking about was, what is it going to be like at Ibrox? We must be better than this Ibrox, for God's sake. And then when we scored, I must say, I do think that thought went through my mind. Wow, relief. We got the goal. We're not going to give this up against this team, because they're rubbish. They're just absolute woeful. And it turned out we did give up. It turned out we did. So wrong again. But that was the thoughts. You're right. That was my thoughts. Just get us to the end and get us past this. So we've got a clean sheet and we're 3 points behind us. The undefeated part, well, that goes with it. That part, from my perspective. God help us if we get beat. Dear, oh dear, oh dear. I'd have been depressed completely.
I don't know. The big game's Sunday. The big game's the quarter-final, semi-final and the final. Now, that's the Celtic games, the Aberdeen, the Livingston games have sort of been dead brothers, Linda, haven't they?
Yeah, absolutely, Ox. And I think that's probably what I was thinking a bit about last night when I was watching, the game. I was just thinking that there's no way, I don't want to tempt fate, that it's going to be anywhere near like this on Sunday. As Bridge said, we made 7 changes. All our so-called big players will be back. The players that have been playing week in, week out, over the last couple of months. Players that have really stepped up at times, like Ryan Kent, Joe Aribo will be starting. We'll have our strongest team on the park. So, yeah, it's all about Sunday.
All right,
well,
get yourself some mute.
Right, on mute.
Want to have a tune.
Team of all. We support the Glasgow Rangers, doing it Ibrox is the place, and we will follow in the championship race. Yes, it's true, the boys in blue are just magic on the ball. The Glasgow Rangers football team's the greatest team of all. It's true, the magic boys in blue are the best team in the land. You've got to queue and govern to get a ticket for the stand. Yes, it's true, the boys in blue are just magic on the ball. The Glasgow Rangers football team's the greatest team of all. We've spent a lot of money on great players, yes, that's true. But the Rangers fans deserve the best from the boys in royal blue. Yes, it's true, the boys in blue are just magic on the ball. The Glasgow Rangers football team's the greatest team of all. The story, it was dismal, full of gloom. Now we're building an extension for the Ibrox trophy room. Yes, it's true, the boys in blue are just magic on the ball. The Glasgow Rangers football team's the greatest team of all. In Europe we'll be travelling by land and sea and plain. The teddy bears have got the bears and we're on the march again. Yes, it's true, the boys in blue are just magic on the ball. The Glasgow Rangers football team's the greatest team of all. Yes, it's true, the boys in blue are just magic on the ball. The Glasgow Rangers football team's the greatest team of all. Yes, it's true, the boys in blue are just magic on the ball. the greatest team of all. Yes, it's true, the boys in blue are just magic on the ball. The Glasgow Rangers football team's the greatest team.
Well, hello, Alistair. I've been joined by Alistair. How we doing?
Hello, how you doing? How's things?
All right, mate. Good to hear from you, mate. How's life treating you? Everybody safe in your world, mate?
At the moment, yes, it's nice to kind of see a wee bit of light at the end of the tunnel. It's not been a great time, obviously, in the last year or so, but obviously helped by the fact that we've still managed to keep our football going, and we've obviously managed to be successful this year, so that's been hugely beneficial, I think, for a lot of people, certainly of our persuasion that we've managed to keep that going. But we're doing all right. I work in education, so we're starting to kind of open the doors a wee bit, and it's nice to see other faces again, with the greatest respect to my family. I think everybody's in that position where it's nice to see folk again. It's nice to see some different people. And
You've got 8 kids at night, you've got 8 kids during the day.
Yeah, oh, mad. Aye,
What I want to do, Alistair, I want to talk about you first and foremost,
Yep,
and then
sure.
we'll get into your books. And obviously, we know you've got your latest book out, which is very interesting. How that came about. But
Yep,
how
sure.
did you first and foremost the passion for our club, and then how did you take that and get into writing books?
Right, well, my first game at Ibrox was 12th of March 1988. We beat Motherwell 1-0. Reid Durante scored at the Copland Road end, and it was cash at the turnstiles. And it was a guy. My dad was a school teacher, and this guy was a janitor at the school, and he'd suggested to my dad, "Look, let's get him up to a game." So I was 9, and it was back in the days where it wasn't the blue sea of Ibrox. It was red, orange, brown, blue, yellow, and we were in the Brumland Road rear brown section, and it was awe-inspiring for me, and it all really started probably about a year before that. I remember my dad coming in. I was sitting at the table doing my homework, and he came in and he planks doing this programme for the League Cup semi-final, 86-87 against the United. And he says, the janitor at school gave them up for you. And from then on, the janitor at the school, if he was he was a season ticket holder, and on a Sunday we would be going through the town, and he would stop his car and he would hand me the programme out for the game the day before, and we just built up that relationship. And I used to sit in on a Saturday if we had a home game, and if he had a spare ticket, he would phone me on the Saturday, and Saturday lunchtime he'd come and pick me up and take me up to games, and it just built for there. And I was always a bit of a bookworm, and I was never one of these guys that was into the kind of fiction side of things. It was more football history, and obviously steeped in the kind of history and tradition of our own club. So that kind of got me going, and then I kind of, as I tend to do in my books, I took a wee bit of a flyer and thought, you know what, there's been nothing out on Ali McCoist, who was my hero when I was growing up for a wee while, so managed to get something out on him, albeit unauthorised at the time. And then I had a wee bit of a kind of lull because starting a family and the work commitments and whatever, and then it picked back up again when I managed to get in touch with guys that played for us in the 1980s, a very transitional period for the club, so therefore by definition a very interesting era for us in terms of the state of change and the evolution that went on at the club during that time. And things have kind of spawned on for there, and I've been bitten very, very heavily by the bug again, and I'm thoroughly enjoying every project I'm doing just now. Start at another one, which I'll stay kind of tight-lipped about just now, but I'm moving on with every book, and I'm building a set of contacts that it's quite humbling at times when I'm sitting and I get messages coming in for the group chat that I've got on WhatsApp with the guys that did the 80s book, and I've been lined up to speak to some of the real top drawer guys in the game, not just with our own club, but obviously outside our own club as well. And it's just the way I like to do it. I like to try and get as many sides to a story, whether it be an autobiography or whether it just be an account of a certain period in our history. I try to cover as much depth and detail as I can. I kind of pride myself in that because I like to kind of go beyond just scratching the surface. There needs to be a bit of depth in there just to kind of tell the full story. So,
is this a hobby? Is it expanded?
It's a hobby at the moment. I would like it to evolve into something more than a hobby, but at this moment in time, it's a hobby. And yeah, it's expanded. I mean, I'm sitting. My partner bought a bookcase last week because all my books in my kind of Rangers library was kind of hidden in a cupboard somewhere in various boxes in the loft. So I've built up a kind of fairly extensive library of books from like the 50s right the way through, and it's always been about the kind of trying to learn that wee bit more, as I say, that wee more detail about the history of the club and the guys that have been fortunate enough to play for us. And as I say, I'm in a very fortunate position just now that I've got contact with a wide range of former players, guys that have played less than 10 games for us and guys that have played in excess of 400 or 500 games. And everybody's got a story to tell, and that's the message that I tend to put across to anybody that I'm speaking to, that it doesn't matter whether you've played once for us or, as I say, 500 times, you've still pulled on that jersey. You've lived that dream that every single one of us has got. And I now get to, I guess, never talented enough to play for the club, but obviously there's kind of something in me that can get me in a position where I can be in touch with guys that have played for us and tell their side of their experience of playing for the club. And that for me is fantastic. It's just a real buzz every time I get to speak to people, and guys that I watched, and even guys that my dad watched as well. And the Johnny at the school, who God rest him is now sadly passed, he's obviously watched some of these guys as well. So to sit in wee David Wilson's living room and sort of shoot the breeze about his time in the game and his experiences, and then, as I say, sort of bring it back to having phone conversations with the likes of Mark Haitley or Ali McCoist or Walter as well. And it's not just about the book. At times, it's about what's going on at the club currently and whatever. And it's a very humbling experience at times, but very, very fortunate and very, very pleased to have that opportunity. And I'm I don't know if it's a unique approach, but certainly in my experience with autobiographies, it seems to be that I don't like just I'm going to tell or I'm going to help tell the subject side of the story. I like to get an input and a different perspective from those that have played with them, those that have managed them, those that have had experience of being with them. And I've done that in both with David Wilson's book and obviously the one that's out at the moment, David Robertson, and just tried to get that other angle, if you like, that sort of not just the football side, but the personal side as well. And I think that's very important when it comes to telling somebody's story, that we need to kind of move away from this guy's a footballer and he's got this reputation for doing this, that and the next thing. And then you get the kind of different perspective, as I say, when it's when you speak to family and friends and former teammates and whatever. So, it's I don't expect you pick out players, etc. A few weeks ago on the show, we had a small competition between some of the people who are panellists on the show, and they got different generations. And two of the panellists, Southside and Orlando, got the 80s. And the criteria was that you had to pick a team for the 80s, but you had to have played the majority of games in that decade. So it sometimes limited you to who you could pick. Because if you take the 70s, for instance, they couldn't use Cooper because even though he signed in the 70s, he played the majority of games in the 80s. So I'll ask you to score this team out of 10 because I don't want you to judge the players because that wouldn't be fair. But their team was pretty interesting. It was Woods, McPherson, Butcher, Monroe, Russell, Derek Ferguson, Ian Redford and Durant, Cooper, McCoist and Mark Walters up front. Yes, I mean, I don't think you're far away from that in terms of
your goalkeeper, Woodsy, obviously coming in 86. We had a range of goalkeepers sort of before that who did a solid job for us, but when you bring in the England number 2, then obviously he's going to be at the top of the list. Dave McPherson is somebody that I've been fortunate to speak to and fortunate to still have contact with. Very, very much underrated as far as I was concerned at that time.
We've had them on the show. What a gentleman!
Very versatile. I mean, obviously, if you've kind of listed him there, I think he started his career in the middle of the park, and he's played at centre half. He's played at fullback. Stuart Monroe, you mentioned as well. Spoke to him for the 80s book out in Australia. A guy who it was very, very clear, I think, that Mr. Souness, when he came in, was looking for a left back, looking for somebody to replace Stuart Monroe, and Stuart Monroe dug his heels in and was very much the unsung hero of that team in the back end of the 80s once the sort of Souness revolution kicked in. Terry Butcher's an obvious one, cornerstone of that revolution. Bobby Russell as well, bedevilled with injury, unfortunately, I think, and he falls into a kind of similar category to the likes of John Brown. You find it hard to believe that somebody of that calibre and somebody of that quality never capped for Scotland. McCoist obviously has to be in there, coming in 83 and going through a pretty hard time to begin with, and then emerging as the goal scorer extraordinaire that he became. Mark Walters as well came in and took a huge amount of stick, huge amount of abuse, and took it on the chin, got on with it, and was again a guy who excelled. Coming in and replacing somebody as iconic as Coop as well must have been a real challenge for him. Ian Redford, again, God rest him, somebody that I would have liked to have spoken to had I had the opportunity, and somebody again that was probably in the team in an era that had Ian Redford signed for us maybe 3-4 years after he did, would have probably stayed at the club longer. Kind of similar to somebody like Jim Bett, who came in and was a kind of shining light in a very, very difficult and dark era for the club. And Fergie, Derek Ferguson, great. Love his company. I was very, very, very fortunate. I signed up to do a charity game, and I ended up playing in a 4-man midfield with Derek Ferguson, Alex Ray, and Charlie Miller. And it's like, this is crazy, this is mad. But again, somebody that was hugely, supremely talented and thoroughly deserves his place in the team for that era. Would I put anybody else in there? I think you've got guys like Jimmy Nicholl, was merits a mention.
Yeah. Good class player, Nicholl. Class.
And another guy who lived the dream and doesn't hide the fact that he lived the dream, and lived the dream twice, having had the loan spell and then obviously come in as a permanent signing under Graham Souness. And kind of beyond the other ones that had that kind of long spell, you guys like John McClelland, who was very unfairly treated. I think at the time he was again another one like Ian Redford. Had he come in later on in the 80s when the wage structure was relaxed under Graham Souness, he may well have stayed for that a wee bit longer. But again, somebody that stuck out for us at that time. But even you see, Chris Woods was the obvious choice for the goalkeeper. You've got guys like Jim Stewart, you've got guys like Mickey Walker that did a job for us at a very, very difficult time, at a time when we were under a lot of pressure, because it wasn't just Celtic we were competing with in the 80s. Obviously, we were up against Aberdeen and Dundee United, and it was a case of Rangers and Celtic, and we, to sort of quote Fernando Rickson, first is everything, second is nothing. We weren't even second in a number of years in the 80s because of the competition we were facing. So a lot of these guys had to endure probably a lot of stick, and playing in a very, very sparsely populated stadium, state-of-the-art stadium in terms of the redevelopment at that time, but very sparsely populated. I read something the other week there that we had, by the time we got to games at the end of the season, we were playing in front of crowds of 5,000, which is mad. It's crazy. But another one that I would perhaps have included, and in the 80s teams, with John McDonald. Obviously, come in back end of the 70s, and he again was somebody that was a regular goal scorer for us in that year as well. Another guy who, and one of the things that strikes me about that year, everybody that was playing for the club either was brought up as a Rangers supporter or very, very quickly bought into the tradition of the club and became immersed in that tradition. And that's what sort of drove the 80s book for me. As I say, it was a very, very transitional era for the club. A lot of change, but a very, very interesting time, because that was an era where the guys were playing on a Saturday at Ibrox and they were going down Paisley Road West and they were going out with the supporters, they were drinking with the supporters, they were socialising with the supporters. There wasn't that distance that you kind of feel as if there is just now between the supporters and the players. And yeah, very, very fascinating time for us. And I would say the team that he's come up with wasn't that far away from what would be our team in the 1980s.
All right. So we go back to what brought about the Davy Wilson book, because Davy Wilson's record's phenomenal for a winger.
Phenomenal. And again, it was just through my own sort of research and reading up in the history of the club. The 60s was such a fantastic year for us, hugely successful, particularly in the early part of the 60s when Jimmy Baxter's there and we get Jimmy Miller and the whole sort of Richie Shearer, Caldo, Greg McKinnon, Baxter, Henderson, McMillan, Miller, Brandon Wilson. And I couldn't understand why nobody had taken a wee punt on wee Davy and brought something out, because his story was so incredible. This diminutive winger that was scoring goals with his head, and he was scoring goals left, right. The 6 goals against Falkirk. So I took a wee, and can I mention earlier, I just took a wee flyer and I messaged, he was on Facebook, and I thought, send a message, see if he's interested. And his granddaughter ran his Facebook page and come back and said, yep, he's up for it. I couldn't believe it. And it's like, right, okay. And first time I spoke to him, I was like, Mr. Wilson, He's like, no, you don't, it's Davy. You call me Davy, you don't call me Mr. Wilson. And so the relationship started from there. And I'm a big believer in fate and things happening for a reason. The first time I sat down with Davy was the 17th of March 2019, and he scored his 6 goals against Falkirk on the 17th of March 1962, and it was his mum and dad's wedding anniversary as well. So as his son said to me a couple of times, stars aligned for that one. So that's how that came about. We sat down, we had a number of conversations, and I sort of built stuff up from there. I then took the call at that point and went, you know what, I'm not just going to get wee Davy's side of the story, I'm going to get other sides of the story. So through help from wee Davy and his family and a number of other people, I managed to get Walter to do the forward, because obviously Walter had played with him at Dundee United. Wee Davy managed to get me in touch with Sir Alex Ferguson, managed to get me in touch with Dennis Law. And again, I'm sitting in the car park in my lunch break at work talking to Sir Alex Ferguson on the phone. And his PA had said to me, 15 minutes, you get 15 minutes. 40 minutes later, we're still talking. And I'm thinking, this is madness. This is probably, arguably, the greatest manager that Scotland certainly has ever produced. And we're just sitting here shooting the breeze about Davy Wilson. It's kind of pinch yourself stuff at times when you're doing that.
Did you feel Fergie was talking about one of his heroes?
Yes, I did. And he was very, very clear on that he had sort of grown up with the team of the sort of 40s and the 50s, and we Davy coming in the sort of back end of the 50s. You did get the impression that when he came in, I think Fergie came in, summer of 67, and that's when the wee man was leaving. Mm-hmm. Bizarrely, if you think now, with the record that wee Davy had, 28 years old, we decided to sell him to Dundee United, which was, with the benefit of hindsight, must have been daft, but Fergie said he was still in and around the club when he came in, and wee Davy sat down with him and he talked to him. He basically said it was a fantastic opportunity for him, and he was very, very... it wasn't as if he was, I'm on my way out the door here, I'm going to be bitter, I'm going to sort of stick the knife in. On the contrary, he was effusive in his praise of the club, effusive in his praise of the manager, at a time where he must have been hurting, because it was a club he'd always wanted play for. He'd had 11 years with us, and here he was, essentially been lined up to go to Dundee United and as part of the deal that brought Origin Person to Ibrox. So, but you get the impression, as I say, when I spoke to Sir Alex and I spoke to Dennis Law, that they had that respect for each other at that time. So, as I say, that was another opportunity, just by taking that flyer, just by taking that sort of leap of faith, if you guess, if you want to put it that way. And it was similar with David Robertson. Obviously, his story was another one that, like everybody else, we'd mentioned Stuart Munro earlier. I think David had obviously come in and replaced Stuart Munro and the team in '91, and was very, very quiet, very, very unassuming, but was, and I'm not just saying this because I collaborated with him in his book, probably up there alongside Arthur Newman is the best left back we've had in the last 40 years. But I was more intrigued as to the other side of his story, because you see the documentary, you see this guy who's shouting and swearing and whatever, and that was one of the things that came out from the documentary. But that's what drove the title of the book, The Quiet Man Roars, because he was, and when I spoke to David, when I spoke to his family, when I spoke to the players that played with him, they were watching this documentary and couldn't believe it. It was a completely different guy, because he was this guy that was very, very quiet in the dressing room, went about his business, did his job and whatever. But I kind of felt there was another side to that story. So again, sent a message through social media, and David come back to me, and we evolved from there. And through David's book, as I say, I've hugely privileged to have the chance to speak to my hero twice, 3 times now. I've got so having spoken to Ali, having spoken to Mark Catley, having spoken to Alex McLeish, Willie Miller. As I said, when I'm moving through the books, I'm sort of building up that sort of bigger network, but it doesn't change anything for me. It's still, I'm the supporter, I'm the guy that's sort of
starstruck.
Starstruck, but I need to realise as well, I'm doing a job for wee Davy initially, and I'm collaborating with David latterly, and obviously collaborating for the project I'm working on just now. So I need to try and kind of keep a lid on it, and sort of get the kind of high pitched squeaky voice and go, I'm speaking to my heroes here from the time when I started watching the club, and obviously followed the club through sort of 9 in a row and all that kind of stuff. But I've got to realise that I'm trying to get a story out here, so I need to make sure that I get the questions right. I need to make sure that I get their trust, if you like. And one of the things I'm very, very transparent with them, anything that I write goes to them first for approval before it goes anywhere, because I don't want to, from a sort of reputational point of view, put anything out there that's not not necessarily going to bring the club down, bring David down, or bring wee Davy down, or whatever. But whether it be, for me, it just needs to be that sign off, and I think that gets respect from these people that I'm speaking to.
Yeah.
And it's as I said, something that started off as a hobby is now evolving, and as I say, I don't like to scratch the surface. I like to get into a bit of detail. I like to, and maybe that's something, and it's, our partner's very, very keen on talking about balance. I just need to watch that. I don't need to get into too much detail, but by the same token, it's about telling the story. It's about getting the anecdotes. It's about getting that stuff that's not public domain, and that's what I've been very, very fortunate about.
The David Robertson, so you've got this idea and you thought, right, okay, that's not been done. You've seen the documentary.
Mm-hmm.
How did the contact start? Was it just through social media and then it just grew through there?
It was just a message on Messenger through Facebook. Again, I noticed that similar to wee David, that David was on Facebook. I knew through having followed after the documentaries, having kind of kept a keen eye on what was happening in Kashmir. I knew he was back home. So I thought the opportunity was there during the sort of close season. That he was back at home, so therefore it made it easier, because obviously we've seen the documentaries of sort of communication out in India isn't particularly great. So I thought, might as well try it. At the end of the day, all they can do is say no. The whole sort of, if you don't buy a ticket, you're not going to win the lottery. So he come back to me fairly quickly, and things just moved from there. We would talk for about half an hour, 45 minutes at a time, and then I would shape stuff up, share the stuff with him, and what David had said or has said a number of times now was I sort of triggered stuff that he'd forgotten about, and through me doing the research on the back of the conversations with him, that then drew out more stories and drew out more detail, which is exactly what I'm looking for when I'm doing a project like that. So very, 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 very lucky, very, very fortunate. But I'm hopeful that it will continue in the kind of trajectory it's on at the moment.
Obviously, he played in a purple patch for us in our history, David Robertson, and I agree with you. I think he was one of the finest left backs we've ever had at our club ever.
Yep.
Yeah. People can argue, was he the best? That'll come down to individual choices, but he would be up there. He never shirked away for the tackle, especially against Joe Miller, of course. But
yeah.
but he was a fabulous player. 3 caps, a disgrace.
Incredible. And the chapter in the book is called Scunnered with Scotland, because that's exactly where he got to with Scotland. I think we were, dare I say it, similar to today, where we've got Andy Robertson and Kieran Tierney, who are both very, very good fullbacks. We were in a position at that time where, when David made his debut against Northern Ireland in '92, we had like Maurice Malpass and Tom Boyd, and then latterly guys like Rob McKinnon. But you're thinking, David Robertson, we've just said it, as far as we're concerned, is one of the best left backs that Rangers have produced. Yet when he was picked for Scotland for the first time, he was picked in left midfield. Madness. And eventually it got to a stage where he was being selected, he was being picked in squads, and he was being put on the bench. And he said to me, if you're a defender on the subs bench, you know that unless you're trying to protect your lead, it's very, very rare that a defender's going to come off the subs bench. And then it got beyond he wasn't even in the 18. He was taken in the original squad, and he wasn't in the 18. And eventually just got to the stage where it was like, you know what, I need to kind of look after my club career, and I'm not going to get that opportunity. He was even getting picked to play in B internationals, and the B internationals at that time, where this is a sort of trial to get into the big team, and Walter pretty much summed things up for me in his Scotland career when he said that he didn't have to think about David when he was picking his team on the Friday, because if David was fit, David was on it. So you've got one of the great, again similar to what we were saying about Sir Alex, one of the greatest managers, one of the greatest judges of players ever, and certainly one of our best managers, who's got David fit. He's a first pick, he's in the team, yet he can't get beyond 3 caps for Scotland. And David actually said to me, there was a cartoon that appeared just after he signed for Rangers in one of the papers that was depicting him with his trophy cabinet with his 50 odd caps for Scotland, because everybody expected at that time, this guy's going to develop, he's going to come in, he's going to be Rangers' first choice left back, and he'll play for Scotland for the next 5, 6, 7 years, and he'll accumulate 50, 60 caps. 3 caps is just it's a real head scratcher, and it would have been interesting. I didn't get the chance to speak to guys like Craig Brennan or whatever. It would be interesting to get their perspective just as to what it was with David that just didn't fit in. Because if you look at, even after he did his first couple of seasons with us, and he was in that team that had the 44 game unbeaten run, won the treble, and then he builds up this fantastic relationship with Brian Laudrup. And having spoken to Brian via email, he couldn't understand it either. So again, one of the greatest players that's ever played for us can't understand why this guy, who's built through his ability, the relationship with Brian Laudrup to that effect on the left-hand side of their team, can't understand why he was never given more caps for Scotland. Three's incredible. And if it was a pub quiz question, like you've got David Robertson that's played 250 games for Rangers, and as I say, first pick for Rangers, many caps as he got for Scotland, you would take an educated guess, and the educated guess would be a hell of a lot higher than 3. It's but David's no bitter about it. David's like, you know what? He's still got the opportunity to play for Scotland 3 times. He's still got the chance to represent his country at various different levels. But eventually it just came to a point where it just wasn't really worth going away from training with Rangers and focusing on the game on the Saturday. And that's unfortunate that that's the stage it got to. But as I say, we were blessed at that time with some very, very good left backs. But I don't think they had that. They didn't have that dimension to the game that David had, which was, as you said earlier, very, very good in the tackle, very, very good defender. But his attacking threat was incredible. And his delivery into the box, the pace was phenomenal. His delivery into the box was very good as well. And it was actually Alex McLeish that said to me, he knew when David came in as a young boy at Aberdeen, because of his pace, he said 9 times out of 10 he would expect to win the ball in the air if the ball was launched forward. But he knew, he had confidence that if he missed it, that David's pace was such that he would tuck in and recover. And I guess you can't really get much more sort of praise than that even at a young age, you've got 2 of the best centre-backs that have probably graced the Scottish game in that era, knowing that their sort of shortcomings, if you like, because Willie Miller had told me that he was never blessed with pace, but he knew that if somebody turned him, somebody got in behind him, then a lot of the time David would make up the ground because of his pace and recover. And as I say, then when he came to us, his ability to go forward and the amount of ground, we obviously don't have the same kind of statistical data that we had or that we've got just now, but when you look at these guys, the ground they cover and the kilometres they cover, the amount of ground that David must have covered week in, week out for us, and consistently as well. It was only really towards the kind of tail end of his career with us that it was curtailed a wee bit with a knee injury. But he was pretty much playing week in, week out at that time, and he had such a fantastic engine. But it wasn't just this guy that could run. It was a guy that had a bit of ability as well. Mm-hmm. And ironically, he started off as a left winger, and it was only by accident that he ended up going to left back when it was a youth tournament for Aberdeen. And he is humble enough and honest enough to sort of say that had he stayed as a left winger, he doesn't think he would have had the career that he had. But by being converted into a fullback and developing as a fullback, that was a huge moment, a huge turning point in his career. And then once he starts going into management, and obviously what he's gone through in Kashmir and what he continues to go through in Kashmir, he almost did a sort of try before you buy with Kashmir as well. Went out there and went out for 6 games, and he told me what he experienced during that time. Right. And it was like, well, why did you go back? And he went back simply because he loves his football, and he loves being involved in football. He'd gone through a spell of being involved in grassroots football in America, and he wanted to get back to the professional game, and this was the opportunity that he got. And irrespective of the stuff that's going on off the park, he just wanted to be involved in the game. He loves the game that much. And one of the things that's come out from his time in Kashmir, obviously we see the documentary, this guy shouting and swearing and whatever. One of the things that's come across from people I've spoken to is he's behind the scenes, sort of off the camera. The bit that we didn't get to see was he's actually a very, very good and a very, very strong man manager, probably through the experience that he's had working under Walter and working under Sir Alex Ferguson. And the players and the coaching staff that he's got are very, very can't speak highly enough of him in terms of his man management skills. But what he goes through, or what he has gone through off the park in Kashmir, to have had the success he's had out there, for me is quite incredible. Again, similar to the Scotland cap situation, I can't quite understand why nobody in this country's taking a punt on him.
Do you think they ever will? Do you think there's a job for him in the UK, stroke Scotland?
I think the feeling at the moment is that the documentaries, as good as they were, haven't really painted them in a light where somebody that's a chief exec or a chairman at a club is going to say, this is the guy for me. So I'm hopeful, and I think one of the things that David wanted to come out of the book was, that's no me as a manager. So I think his long-term goal is probably to get something in this country. And I really hope he does get that opportunity, because I think he would be a credit, and he would be a valuable asset to any club in this country. I mean, I'm not saying that he's going to come in and start threatening Stevie's job and whatever, but there's probably opportunities for him to sort of come in, get a job in Scotland, and probably come in and work in the Premiership as well. I think what helps him in Kashmir is the fact that his son's out there as well. His son Mason's obviously captain of Real Kashmir, and he's developed under his dad as well. So I would like to think there will be an opportunity out there for him in this country, but you just never know.
When I look back at David Robertson, it's a question you'll never be able to answer. When he played for us, every year he was with us, we won the league, yeah?
Yep.
And he said he played most weeks, and then he started getting injuries, and he was unlucky with his move to Leeds because it never really worked for him. But I genuinely believe, and you'll never be able to prove this, but if he would have stayed with us in the 97-98 season, because we couldn't fill that position when he walked out the door, we would have won the league for 10 in a row. Well, I want to put that on his shoulders, but when I look at the stats and when I look at his record,
100%. And you look at the sort of players that we lost, if you like, or the players that are reaching the end of their career. You talked about sort of missing out in 10 in a row. Obviously, Gascoigne goes in March and all that kind of stuff. But had we slotted a David Robertson, a guy that knew what it was all about, knew what was expected of that team, and with the greatest respect to Stal Stensas, who came in from Norway, decent player, but wasn't in the same sort of category as David Robertson. And had David been in that team at that time, then I agree, then the push for 10 in a row may have been more successful than it was. But at that time, we were under we were working in the Bosman era. David was coming to the end of his contract. The terms he was offered weren't necessarily what he was looking for. And then all of a sudden, when clubs start to have a nibble, we got a chance to go at that time to the best league in the world, or what was evolving and developing into the best league in the world. And then he was hugely unfortunate when he went to the Premiership, because he picked up a pretty serious knee injury that effectively finished his career within the first 6 months of his time at Leeds. And again, we can't really answer it. Had he stayed with us, would he have picked up that injury? Would he have continued on? And then exactly. And he was. Had he stayed for another 3-4 years, he would probably went through and would we then have signed Arthur Newman? Would there have been a requirement for Dick Advocaat to sign Arthur Newman had David Robertson stayed for 3 or 4 years? Probably not, because as I said earlier, I've got David and Arthur Newman probably on a par in terms of the standard of left back that we've had, or the sort of top end.
Bizarrely, I would see Arthur Newman as a classier player, but I see David Robertson as a better player.
Yes, I mean, obviously Arthur Newman had played for the Dutch national team, so his style of play was slightly different than David's. But I think in an attacking sense, probably both the same. But David had that sort of edge that probably Arthur didn't have to him in terms of his tackling and all that kind of stuff. So, again, underrated probably, but underrated probably because he was playing for us in an era where you've got guys like Gorham, you've got Gough, you've got McCoist, you've got Durrant, you've got Brian Laudrup, you've got Paul Gascoigne, you've got superstars, and David was never regarded as a superstar. Yet, when you look at the stats, when you look at what he contributed to that team, huge part of that, I mean, 6 of the 9 championships he won at the end of the day. Yeah. And as I said earlier, from Walter's perspective, if David Robertson was fit, David Robertson played. And that, given the calibre of player that Walter was selecting at that time, there was never right, we'll go and look for another left back. We'll go and David Robertson was his left back, and you mentioned earlier about the Joe Miller thing. David said that was down to Archie. It was down to Archie Knox. I don't know if you remember, we played Celtic just before the semi-final in the league and been beaten 2-0 at Ibrox. And Joe Miller had sort of run the show, and Archie had said to David, right, lay something on him. And the kind of traditional at that time, lay something on him, let him know you're there in the first few minutes of the game. So David says he sees Pat Bonner rolling the ball out to Joe Miller and says, right, I'm going to leave something on him. And of course Joe Miller gets past him, David body checks him, and probably at that time it merited a yellow card. But obviously Mr. Waddle decided that it was a red card, and it was purely down to the fact that Archie had sort of fired him up and said, you need to do this in the first 5 or 10 minutes of the game. But ironically, and David said he sat in the bowels of Hampden and expected Walter to come in and get in and out through him at half time. Obviously Coisty scores just before half time, so it may well have been a different kind of reception had that not happened. But that ironically was the night that team kind of evolved and was born, because of the fighting qualities, and we kind of knew after that it didn't matter what Celtic threw at us in that era, we were better and we were going to stand up to it and whatever. But that's one of the things that kind of sticks out from David's early time with us, that red card. But there's so much other stuff beyond that as well.
So for the people that's listening, I don't want to get through all the book and tell, because we want people to get your book and we want them to read it, and we don't want to tell all the stories in it. So the people listening, tell us the name of the book again. Tell us where they can get it.
It's called The Quiet Man Roars, the David Robertson story. There's a foreword by Walter Smith and there's a foreword by Richard Gough in it. You can get it through. You can get it through major all the sort of main retailers and whatever, but I've also got my own Facebook page, which is called Aird Books, and if you contact us through Aird Books, then we can get some stuff sorted through that as well. We're looking, hopefully, over the next few weeks with Father's Day coming up, to do some promotions as well, to kind of add a wee bit of uniqueness to the book as well. Obviously, where restrictions getting lifted, obviously places are going to start to open up and whatever, which is great for us, but from a just to add that wee different sort of slant to it, just whether it be through inserts or whatever, we're looking at a number of ideas through that Aird Books page at the moment. So if those that are listening keep tabs on that, then hopefully within the next few weeks there'll be something that we can, as I say, just add that wee bit, something that wee bit different if you're purchasing through us. But what was your website address then, and we'll get it posted on our social media? It's Aird Books on Facebook, so that's AIRD Books on Facebook. We'll get that posted in Twitter, that would be absolutely brilliant. Yeah. And we've got a Twitter page as well for Aird Books. So either of them, contact us through that. And my partner will tell you that one of the big things for me is about how it's come across and how it's been received. So if anybody's read it, if any of the listeners have read it already, then I'm only too happy to take feedback, constructive, destructive, whatever, because as I say, this is something that I'm looking to evolve and grow. It started as a hobby. I've got the kind of bit between my teeth with it now, and I want to keep going with it, and I want to make sure that what I put out there is what the people that are reading my books it's what they want to read. So if anybody that's listening that's read it already, if they want to post any of the views or drop me PMs through the Facebook page or through Twitter, then I'm happy to take that on. All right. Yeah, I've got one of my courses. You've done, was it 3 books on Ali? 3 books? I did 3 books in Ali. So essentially, book 2 and book 3 were just sort of updates to the first one. So it's 3 books in Ali, and there was Rangers in the 1980s, the player stories. So that was 21 players that played for us in the 80s. He takes a good part of that, yeah. Ranging for the likes of Goffey through to Stuart Beattie, who only played 9 games for us and whatever, but still lived that dream. And then the 80s one, we moved on to Davy Wilson after that. So that's Wilson in the wing, and then from Davy Wilson on to Davy Robertson after that. Right. And whether it be an opportunity to come back on at some point or whatever. As I say, there's another project bubbling away just now.
It'd be great to hear from you again, mate.
So,
talk about Rangers every night. One of my co-hosts that's on here, Linda, she wants to come and ask you a question about Ali, if that's all right.
Not a problem.
Yeah.
Not a problem.
Right, Linda, the floor's yours.
Hi, Alistair. How you doing?
Hi, Linda. How you doing? Not too bad. How's things?
Yeah, brilliant. It's been fascinating listening to you. You're a real passion for our club. It's been fantastic. I just a wee question about Ali. I mean, I grew up with Ali as well. He was an absolute hero of mine. I've got all the T-shirts, the videos, the books. But I just wanted to ask, when you did the book on him, did he live up to kind of your sort of hero status of him? And did his character really shine through? Because I've always thought that's one of his main attributes.
Well, a couple of things on that, Linda. Towards the end, last game of 95-96, we played Kilmarnock at Rugby Park. And on the Friday night, I went to the Marine Highland Hotel with the Boys Brigade, and we found out that Rangers were staying there. And I went back with my dad on the Saturday, and my mum was there as well, to get autographs and all that kind of stuff. And there's an old adage that you should never meet your heroes because you'll be disappointed. And I met Ali for the first time that day, and I was blown away because he asked me where I was from, and I told him where I was from. He said, "Oh, so how's I'm from Ayrshire." So obviously, and he said, "So how's your junior team getting on?" And we stood and talked for 5 or 10 minutes, and he didn't have to do that. All I had to do was sign the programme, and that would have been enough for me. And then the book evolved from there. And as I said, when I've spoken to him as part of the David Robertson book, don't get me wrong, he's elusive on the park when he was scoring goals for us. When it comes to actually trying to get him pinned down for a period of time to speak to him, it's murder. But when I get him, it's absolutely dynamite. 30 minutes, and as I say, it's not just a case of speaking to him about it's right, let's speak about the topic and nothing else. It's what do you think about signing Kemar Roof? What do you think about Morelos? What do you think about what's going on just now? And it's very, very, it's pinching stuff. And disappointed? No. Frustrated at times, yeah, because it's difficult to pin him down to a time. And every book that I've done that he's been involved in, we've kind of got to deadline day, and it's like, I'm going to have to try and shift this deadline if you don't get in touch with me. And then when he comes on the phone, he gets you straight away, because he comes on the phone and says, look mate, I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry for the amount of time. I've been really busy. And that's me, I'm done. I'm like, right then. No probs. And then we're away for half an hour. I disappointed, no way. And I added him, ironically.
I don't think his timekeeping, Alistair, was ever his strong point, because I remember
it was never his strong point. Now,
yeah, he said to David Murray, yeah.
That was one of the stories that Durante told me for the 80s book. He come back late, missed a curfew, and Jock Wallace just knocked him spark out because he missed the curfew. And I don't think he learned for that, because I think he was what was it? I think it was David Murray that Ali had said to me, "I'm sorry I'm late, Mr. Murray, but it's the earliest I've been late for ages." And
that's right, I remember that.
That just sums him up. But as I say, when you actually get him on the phone, when you actually get to speak to him, it's like, okay, this is my hero. Obviously, you're saying obviously you have brought up him as well. It's really, really good to have that opportunity. He didn't contribute. I tried to get him to contribute to the 80s book, but through circumstances that didn't happen. But I've got a group chat on WhatsApp with the guys that contributed to the 80s book, and I've added him into that. And I thought, you know what, I'll take a punt, I'll add him in, and he contributes regularly to that, which is fantastic again. And I still get that wee kind of flutter every time the message alert comes through and it says Ali McCoist. It's mad. It's mad.
You better not let Linda in that WhatsApp group. Ali was a unique character for us, but he's also a stronger character than people must give him credit for, because how his career went, it wasn't always ups. He had downs,
No.
ups and downs, but the
Took
way he
a-
bounced back, yeah.
Took a pounding. I mean, I think he came in when he came in '83. There was he had the chance to sign for us twice. He didn't sign for us, so that was already a kind of the sceptics were out. He gets the hat trick against Celtic in the first season, so that's obviously going to help. But we played Dundee in a Scottish Cup tie in '84, '85, and no matter what he did that day, he couldn't hit the target. John Brown scored the only goal of the game, and the Copeland essentially goes in unison and tell him where to go in no uncertain terms. And he said to me that Jock Wallace pulled him in. I've got Cardiff interested, I've got Sunderland interested, and he reckons Jock Wallace was gut checking. So Big Jock dropped into reserves after that. He went to the reserves, scored some goals in the reserves, and from there it just took off. And every single time he was written off, and that was one of the things I think that drew me to him as well. Every time he was knocked back, he bounced back, and he bounced back even better. As soon as you wrote him off and said, right, that's Ali, he's finished, he's done. Broken leg in '93, he's finished, he's done. He come back and he scored. We talked earlier on about David and the 10 in a row season. The 10 in a row season wouldn't have got to the stage it got to had it not been for Ali coming in sort of March, April time and starting to score goals for us again. Marco Negri started the season scoring goals for fun. Ali's out the team. Walter then brings him back in, and he did what he did best. He came in and he scored goals for us. But aye, great character, but greatest ever goal scorer. You're damn right. And in terms of meeting your heroes, I would meet him every single day of the week, because it's he's as good as his reputation goes for him. He's a character, but his timekeeping is no great, and getting in touch with him can be a challenge at times. But once you get him, well worth the wait.
Yeah. And as a supporter, Alistair, how have you enjoyed this season?
Fantastic. I think I remember standing with a guy at work when it was rumoured that Stevie G was coming in, and he's like, no chance. There's no way Steven Gerrard will come to Rangers. And I think he's been afforded the opportunity to develop us. And one of the things that I like about the squad at the moment is there's not much difference in the squad now from the squad that he picked, or that he sort of recruited to begin with. But this season there's been aspects over the last two seasons where you can see that we've got better and we've improved, but this season's just been on another level. He's got so much out of these players, and it's been a pleasure to watch. The only disappointment is we've not been able to be there in person to see it, that we're having to sit and watch it on the TV rather than actually being there and enjoying the football that we're playing. And the fact that as much as we dropped points last night and whatever, the fact that we've now got a squad that's strong enough that we can make 7 changes for a game, and we're still bringing in 7 players who are at a level that's probably above what we'd had for a number of years, is again testament to the manager. And I really hope that he stays for a period of time. Obviously the carrot of Liverpool is never going to go away, and that's going to continue to be dangled in his direction. But I think, and we talked earlier about, and Chris Woods come in and Terry Butcher come in and Graham Roberts come in, and they sort of get bitten by the bug and sort of get pulled in by the tradition of the club. I think Stephen's the same. I think he's now sort of died in the wool. So I think it would take a huge offer from a club other than Liverpool to sort of prize him away from us. So I just hope that Jurgen Klopp sort of hangs around at Liverpool for another couple of years, because I think we've got.
I think Jurgen should get a testimonial.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're on the verge of something very, very special with Stephen, and I really hope that we get the chance when we return to normality, that the fans get back and show him the appreciation that he deserves for what he's done for us this year. Because to be in the position we're in, 20 odd points clear, potentially looking at winning the league, he's surrounded himself with the right individuals, and he's whether it be through his coaching staff or his own keen eye for a player. He's got a huge squad. You look at our bench in every single game, you can see, well, if Morelos isn't playing well today, we can take Morelos out, we can bring Kemar Roof in. You've got guys like Goldson, you've got guys like Tav that have, again, stepped up to another level this year. And if anything, it's very, very difficult to pick a player of the year this year because everybody has made a significant contribution. But it's been a fantastic season. I really hope that we can add another layer of silver and get ourselves through the next three Scottish Cup ties and pick up the double. But whether it be a kind of negative attitude or not, the most important thing this year was 55, and he's secured that comfortably for us now, and it's been fantastic.
Well, you don't believe that? We've run out of time, mate. That's an hour, mate.
I can waffle in my books, and I can waffle as well when I'm talking about the Rangers.
Listen, absolutely fantastic. I'm just going to go through your books for people again. The latest book is obviously The Quiet Mind Roars, the David Robertson story.
That's
and then we've got Rangers FC in the 1980s. I might have to get that for Southside and Linda for they too, because they knew nothing about the 80s. Wilson on the wing, David Wilson story. What a left side that would have been. David Robertson and David Wilson. Alan McCoy's the legend, Alan McCoy's the Rangers hero, and Alan McCoy's the portrait of a Ranger, a portrait of a hero.
Absolutely bang on, yep. That's us.
By Alistair Aird,
Nice one.
Alistair, listen, thanks for taking the time and coming and joining us here on Rangers Radio.
No problems.
You're welcome to come on when you've got anything Rangers to talk about. We'll always want to talk about it.
Well, listen, anytime. It's a pleasure, all right?
Thanks very much, Alistair. You look after yourself and all that family of yours.
I will do. All right. Cheers, guys. Speak to you soon. Take care. Right.
Cheers,
Bye-bye.
Alistair.
Cheers, Alistair.
Right, no worries. Thanks, guys. All right.
Cheers.
Bye, Alistair.
Right,
Rich
thanks,
man.
guys. Speak to you soon. Take care.
Cheers, Alistair. Richman, over to you to close the show, mate. Do you enjoy that?
Oh, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Really good show tonight, man. A good show. That was excellent. Boy, magic.
Yeah.
I don't know who that woman was that came in and spoke to him earlier.
I don't know.
About
She a random caller, I think.
something like that. Imagine asking about Super Ali. Goodness sake.
She kicked him in the touch for
Can I just say to you guys, wonderful night, Oxtair. Wonderful night. Brilliant. Well done. Good partnership by what's your name again? Super. Well done, Linda. Oh, can I just say thank you very much to everybody and to all the Rangers fans all over the world, and particularly Rangers fans on here and Rangers Radio. Everybody, please keep it going for the Rangers because we're rolling along now. Keep it going. And well done to that guy, Alistair. Well done.
Thanks to Bridge and Linda for joining us on the show, and of course, thanks to Alistair Aird for taking the time to join us here in Rangers Radio. We'll be back tomorrow night between 8 and 10 talking about all things Rangers, and I'm sure all Bears got something to say on the proposed Super League. Thanks for listening. Thanks to Fox and Old School Blue for doing the technicals. Speak to you tomorrow night. Take it away, Old School Blue.
Today, forever and for always, we are Rangers through and through. Well, the legends come and the legends go, but Rangers live on just the same. For a new one's born when the blue shirts won, and we all remember their names. We are the legendary Rangers. We wear the legendary blue. Today, forever and for always, we are Rangers through and through. And there is no doubt what we're all about when we face the world and say, bring it on some more, 'cause you know for sure that we don't do walk away. We don't do walk away. We are the legendary Rangers. We wear wonder